What's up?
Hi, guys. Welcome to another segment of Straight No Chaser Talk. And today I'm really excited because I've got some really special people joining me, some people that I've known for years, some people that I've come to know on social media because they are really passionate about sports. They're very knowledgeable about sports. And we're going to dive right into it. You know, this show is for fans, for fans. We're jumping right into it, and we're going to give it to you straight no chaser. So, guys, you know how we do. If you got your favorite libation, make sure you put them up, raise them. We're toasting. We're giving it to you straight no chaser.
Water.
Water. Mr. Healthy over there. Okay. So, right now, the hot button topic is The Last Dance, the documentary put together by Michael Jordan. We just finished watching episodes 7 and 8. There's a lot of content that's been built up through these first 8 sessions. We're just going to go around briefly. If you had to describe the documentary in one word, what would be that word that you would use to describe it and why? Let's start with Ken. I love your insight, brother.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it. If I could say one word to describe it, man, it would just be just riveting, because I'm locked in so much on the intricacies of what happened behind the scenes of those championship seasons, man. It's like I haven't watched any series like this, man, since The Wire. So, you know, every Sunday I'm on it, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's got me locked in.
Let me just pause right there. Anytime we can make reference to The Wire, it's always a good point for me. Yeah. Anytime we can reference, you know, see, you want to be one way, it's this other way.
Right.
Oh, man. Big Frenchie, one word to describe the series and why?
Well, I'm surprised out of this stuff that's going on. We move out. Michael's talent is unreal. I mean, just to revisit that all over again, see the way that dude moves forward, man. Good to see. I'm more surprised. What kind of teammate he is, and not going to tolerate it. I guess we'll get.
You know what, Francois, we're breaking up just a little bit. I don't know if you might be further away from the call. Okay. Yep, sounds good. And if you guys have anything going on in the background, you can just mute it until it's time for you to share your thoughts. Paul, the newest latest. What are your thoughts? What's your word to describe The Last Dance?
I think it's outstanding. It's outstanding for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that being in Chicago, being old enough to have witnessed all of it, the Detroit battles, all the way through all 6 championships, and you think you have an idea of who Michael Jordan is. We all know about the dedication. We know about the game. Everybody who knows anything about basketball has, you know, watched this game and can kind of sort of dissect it. But I have to admit, going behind the scenes has been a little bit more telling, and I can understand why he said that after the series is over, some people might actually change their opinion about him a little bit.
Do you think that people will change their opinion for good or for worse?
I think, it's a catch-22. Some people will look at it and say it's, you know, for worse, but as a player, it's undeniable that has not changed. As a player, he's still Michael Jordan. But you can see, since it's behind the scenes, that he's fallible just like everyone else.
Right.
You know, he's emotional, and if you think about it, when we watched him play ball, we've never really, except for the fiery disposition when he plays, we've never really seen Michael Jordan be emotional, except for the moment that he won his first championship after his father passed. Right. We saw that, but I think everybody's had this impression that Michael Jordan was this machine, and you didn't lose that with this series. It's just that you saw the other side of the equation in terms of why he does what he does and things like that. But yeah, I think it's good and bad. It all depends on, you know, how you interpret it.
Okay, fair enough. Big Frank, what are your thoughts? One word to describe the series and why?
One word, GOAT.
GOAT, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, GOAT. Just, man, it just remind me. I mean, it just brought back the memories of watching him live, and to see his passion for it. Like most Team Jordan, we already knew he was an asshole. We already knew he wasn't a great teammate. We already knew this, so it's not surprising. But just to see but just to get the behind look and to see his passion is still there. And just, I mean, I don't know, man. When I watch it now, I still get hyped up. Like I wasn't a Jordan fan until the Cleveland shot.
Okay.
And he told the Cleveland fan, bye-bye. Hey man, he did that. Hey man, I'm being real. Before that, I always thought Jordan was scoring 40 points. I mean, shoot, he shot 70 times. So you ought to get 40 points. But when he hit that last shot and he waved bye-bye to the Cleveland fans, I went down because I was staying in Phoenix. I went down to Phoenix court and I started hooping. And like ever since then, I've been team man Jordan.
All right, so let me just say this real quick. Frank, I hear what you're saying, but I'm obligated to say something positive because that Bulls jersey is very combustible. If you say something bad about Mike, that shit is gonna burst into flames on your back.
Yes, it is.
But make sure you're positive.
Started on this.
Bulls jersey go spontaneously combust on your back, so make sure.
No, man, I'm all good, baby. Hey, man, St. Jordan here.
All right, Derek Anderson.
For me, it's truth telling.
Truth telling, okay.
Mike, he was right. Everybody know Mike is a butthole, but to the extent of how much he is a butthole, it's ridiculous, and it's a little, for me, it's different because I've always fought bullies. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when I see him and I see the stuff he do, it just bring me back to my life and fighting bullies. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I've never liked people that act like that. So now my feeling towards Mike is even a little worse. Now on the court, I just can't take, you cannot deny. Like, I can talk as much garbage as I want to, and I say that Kareem is the GOAT. But Michael Jordan ain't no less than 2. You see what I'm saying?
Well, you know
if
what?
He ain't the GOAT, he number 2. You know what I'm saying? So that's my thing with him. So,
hold that thought. Let me pause you here because we're gonna get into GOAT conversation a little bit later.
Are we really?
Yeah.
We're getting into okay.
We're gonna get into what is the GOAT, what makes the GOAT. So
well,
we need a little bit of time for that conversation later.
All right.
So for me, when I look at I call it the Michael-mentary. It's not a documentary, it's a Michael-mentary.
Right.
With a little bit of Bulls and other stuff thrown in there. But when I look at the Michael-mentary, the one word that comes to mind is unsure. Michael is still this enigma. Is he really the asshole or the a-hole that he comes off to be? Because you hear people that were in this inner circle that will swear by this man. But then I see things that happen to guys like Scott Burrell and Steve Kerr and Bill Perdue and the incident that they had with Horace Grant on the airplane with him not being able to eat. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. You hear these things and you believe that he's a good person, but really, are we able to separate Michael, the ball player, from Michael, the man? And I know that as I look around social media, that's been a huge topic of discussion. And no matter what people's perception of him off the court, his on the court sometimes has allowed people to look past those transgressions, look past those faults. And is that fair? So kind of moving into that direction, from a fan standpoint, are you able to distinguish Michael Jordan, the ball player, from Michael Jordan, the person off the court, and has it skewed you one way or the other? Let me go ahead and start with Frank.
I don't like how he treated Scott and his teammates. I mean, he wasn't a nice. He was an asshole. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, Scott Pippen.
I get it. He wasn't nice man to his teammates. But he won.
Oh God. Okay. I wish I had the mute
Yeah,
button.
okay, man, whatever, okay? I mean, he
All
won,
right.
though.
All right, man. All right.
And like, you know, is it true? Is it true that he didn't let okay, listen. If Horace Grant didn't eat, that's not my fault. Horace supposed to be man enough to demand a plate.
Hello.
Hey man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Don't go into that. That's another. We're gonna dedicate
right.
a whole segment to that. I got you.
All right, man.
Go
I'm
ahead.
just saying, though.
We're
I'm
gonna
just
get back to
saying.
that. I got it. That's a whole segment. I got it down here on my notes.
All right.
What about you, Paul? Are you able to distinguish Michael Jordan, the elite basketball player, versus Michael Jordan, who has some questionable things about him off the court? Can you make that?
Yeah, well, yeah. For the short answer is yeah. I differentiate the two automatically.
Okay.
Because that's like with anybody. Everybody has a professional and a personal face. You know, what you see from an individual professionally isn't the thing you usually see from a personal standpoint. I think 99% of the time when people, I always say, don't let the suit fool you.
Yeah.
You know, because still from the Ninth Ward in New Orleans. You know,
Ninth Ward.
don't let the suit fool you. You know, but the thing is that I was surprised that he was the way he was in terms of pushing his teammates, and he thought that was a way that he was teaching them to prepare them down the road. Now, I am not a teacher, but I grew up around teachers, and everybody here in this forum knows that every individual is different. Everybody learns differently.
Absolutely.
But the thing is that Michael had one way of teaching. And I think in some cases, that's why you probably see someone like Scottie Pippen, who became Scottie Pippen under, his tutelage. But then you look at everyone else, and everybody else that went through the Bulls organization, and you say to yourself, I think a lot of them are being kind to Mike.
Yes.
I think they're being kind to Mike because I don't see the possibility of more positive stories about what kind of teammate Mike actually is. Some people will bite their tongue. A lot of people will, especially if they know it's going to be on television.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just, I got to admit, but I don't hold it against him, because the fact is that it's not that because he won 6 championships. It's the idea that we all have our pluses and our minuses.
Okay. Sounds good.
You
know what, guys? I had to take a time out. Frank is letting us know that he's got the Michael Jordan shrine behind him.
No,
Good job, Frank. Good job, Frank. Okay.
Hey, I got Muhammad and I got my Michigan team. See that?
Oh my God.
My man came, baby.
Oh. All right. You know what?
All right. That's all right.
And delete.
There right there, I am Mike, baby.
I hear you. Oh, Big Kim, what about you? Can you make the difference between the two?
I can definitely make a difference between the two, man. MJ, he's on the Mount Rushmore as far as the greatest to ever do it. But looking at the documentary and what he did to win those championships, the scripture says, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his own soul? And with Michael, I see that he went all out to go out to win championships. At the end of the day, yeah, he's one of the greatest to ever do it. But if you look at how he feels or the position he's in now, it's almost like he lost a lot of the friendship as far as the teammates, at the end of it. So, he was so driven for rings that at the end of the day, he realizes that, man, what did I lose to get all this?
Absolutely.
And in the documentary, you see a segment where he almost breaks down when he says, hey, yeah, I pushed him, and I pushed him hard, and, but, we won. And then he told the camera, hey, you could tell he was breaking down because I think he realized, man, although I gained a lot to be great, I lost something.
What did you
I agree.
Absolutely.
What that is, maybe we'll never know, but it seems like he realizes that, man, a lot of my teammates really don't like me now, because of my quest to win rings, that I'm in a place where I have everything. I thought I had everything, but I really don't have everything that I want right now. So that's what I got out of it.
Yep. Time provides clarity, right? Time provides clarity.
Great
Absolutely.
point. Good point, Paul. Francois, big Frenchie, what you got for me?
Well, now Derek, Frank, and Stan, you guys know this, and now I can tell it to Paul and Ken too. So I worked as a counselor at Michael Jordan's camp at Elmhurst College.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to kind of be around them, play against them, get schooled by them, all of that. But then I also figured out, though, at that point, I think that was 91. So that's when they won their first championship. So I got to see the man more so at that point. The way I got to be that counselor was I was up there just playing, and he had just threw somebody. So I got a glimpse of the man right then and there. He had threw somebody out of camp over a bet, the college kid, and they had a bet. The guy lost the bet. It really wasn't for a lot of money. Mike's a millionaire, but he threw him out. It's that competitive nature. You start. He's walking around playing dozens with people. The entire competitive nature. I started saying to myself, man, is this dude an asshole or what? So I told Stan, I told Stan, I kind of told Derek, I said, yeah, this dude, man, he got a little bit of, there's something there to him. But I think that, like Paul was saying and that Ken was saying, as the years have went by, he is seen now that he ain't cool with his teammates. It's almost like you see all these other teams get back together and have these outings.
Great point.
And I don't think you'll ever see that with Michael Jordan. I think that even with Scottie Pippen being his right-hand man on the team, now that he has been let go by the Bulls, I like to see if Mike reaches out to him and bring him down to Charlotte and put him in the same position. See if he does something like that. But I think that Rod Higgins is a guy I know that he had been cool with and tight with. And I think he's maintained that relationship. But I don't see him having that closeness like they should have, considering they won 6 titles. But I differentiate the man and the player because, everybody got faults. But what I get upset about is the fact that when his faults do come out, people look, it's just like a couple of singers we know. They talented, so we don't want to acknowledge the other things. And I think a lot of times that should be able to be separated. He should be able to be criticized as everybody else is.
I think that's a great point. Derek, I'll let you go, and then let's jump into that because I want to have that conversation. I think that's a great point.
I differentiate because his greatness was ridiculous. So you can't take anything away from the man on the court, nothing. So, but it's just his personality rubs me the wrong way. But we seeing also like people that he was close to when in his playing days. He no longer close to him. Like Charles Barkley, like there's other people that he was close to that he would call their friends, his brothers. He would call Charles his brother. He no longer talks to Charles, and Charles don't want to talk to him. Charles said, Mike got my number.
Yeah.
If he wants to talk to me, he has my number. So, everything comes at a price, man. The way you treat people comes at a price, man.
That's right.
So if that's what he lost, and he'll start seeing it even later on down the line. Like Charles was telling him the truth when he told him, hey, man, you need to stop getting some of these butt kisses away from you and start hiring some basketball people.
Right.
And Mike got upset and just stopped talking to him. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not your brother then. If you're going to stop talking to him because of that.
Right.
So.
Hey, man, you going to draft.
I mean,
Right.
hey, man, the man, he has some demons that he's not even addressing, really. You know what I mean?
It seems like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at him and I'm like, at some point you got to change, at some point you got to mature. Mike is mature, but see, money covers over a whole bunch of stuff, man. It really does. And the money starts to make you think sometimes you don't need those people in your life that grew with you. So I'm seeing that from Mike, man. And at some point in time, if it ain't for his family, he's gonna look and say, hey man, I made some huge mistakes because ain't nobody around. Rod is from Harvey. Rod Higgins is from Harvey. And him and Charles Oakley hit him like that. You know what I mean? They close to him. But other than that, you don't even know who Mike friends are.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm hearing, and it's been talked about. So let's tackle the elephant in the room. Horace supposedly was not allowed to see if he had a bad game. We can all say what we would have done in that situation. You know, we've never been in that situation. Or we haven't been with Michael Jordan and been under the thumb of that much power and that much control. Because, I mean, if you spoke out against him, potentially you could have got traded, cut, whatever the case may be. They didn't have the same contracts like they do now where they were getting paid. The question I want to ask is, have you ever played with a teammate that has been bad news, a cancer, somebody that has bullied people, or maybe you were the teammate that was a bully, or have you had to be an intermediary? Without naming names, go ahead and share what that experience is like. Frank, we haven't heard from you in a minute. Frank, have you played with a bad teammate or somebody that's been a bully or somebody that you had to set straight? Or were you the bully?
No, man, I wasn't a bully.
Yeah, okay.
On our Thornton team, I played the Robin. Townsend was the Batman.
Okay.
But as a senior, Townsend was a junior, man. I was a senior, so man, I wasn't gonna let that happen. I mean, no, I mean, I never played, man, with a guy with the Jordan way of like treating his teammates.
Okay. What about you, Big Ken? How about you?
And I've never played with anybody, man, who acted like they was Debo over me or something, man. I've never been in that situation at all.
Ken, you about 6'3", and we not gonna mention the weight because we all get older now. I don't see too many people
Right?
Debo you. You know, I don't see little Suge over there. I don't see them Debo and little Suge. Chris, what about you, Big Frenchie?
Nah, man. I mean, at times, you know, okay, I think the closest thing I played to it, and he ain't a bully, but he was just tough, was Derek. And that ain't no bullying. That's just Derek. You know, Derek is fired up on the court. Because, you know, Derek brought the best out of me, man, make me so damn mad that I would kill whoever was in front of me just as long as Derek was on my ass about it. So here we go. But that's a perfect example to say what I'm talking about, because there's times, and I was like that, I played good enough to beat the guy, but not kill the guy. And okay. Derek would be like, you know, nigga, go out here and kill the guy. You know, and that's what it was. So, I mean, but as far as the bullying, when I got to playing in college, man, there were times that I would probably be a little too hard on people, but never to the extent that Mike was. No.
What about you, Paul? How about you? Bad teammates?
No, not in any sport. Not in any sport. But I will say, you know, the story with Hars, though, they didn't say he didn't eat. They said that they tried to stop him from feeding him.
Oh, here we go with the semantics.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm saying because one would elicit an entirely different response. You know, somebody telling them not to feed you will piss you off. Having them actually to not feed you is a whole different ball game. But to answer your question, no, never ever had that type of a situation. That's a coaching thing. You know what I mean? I mean, no matter what sport I ever played, it was always had phenomenal coaches. And then under no circumstances did they ever not let you know who ultimately was in control. Plus, back in that day, nobody had dreams of being, you know, like Michael Jordan. That was, I mean, I picked up a basketball watching the Philadelphia 76ers play the Portland Trail Blazers. Okay. The first basketball game I ever saw was on a television, watching Julius Erving play against the Portland Trail Blazers. I saw Julius Erving. I told my dad, I need a basketball and I need a goal. And that's how I picked up playing basketball. I swore I knew I was going to be Dr. J. I wore number 20 for Doug Collins.
Oh, you couldn't beat 1977 on us.
All right, okay. See you, Paul, sir. Derek, what about you? Any bad teammates, or were you the bad teammate?
I wasn't a bad teammate. I was demanding of my team. I definitely was, because I was a point guard. So I was definitely demanding of my team, and I never belittled my teammates, though. I push my teammates, but I never belittle them. And Arnell been my teammate many a time. You know what I mean? Richard, I would more encourage him, but I was a yeller. I was a screamer. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, you in the post, take him. He can't stick you. You know, that type of jump. You know, if it's your shot, you got to take that shot. Because if you don't take it, you hurting this team. That's the type of person I was.
You a
And
trash talker.
Huh?
You a trash talker. You a point guard that talk trash.
No, I really didn't talk to my opponents too much, man. Now, don't get me wrong.
That's not bullying.
Stan been my opponent many a time. Yeah. So now, I'm aggressive. I'm very aggressive, and that kind of led to some people not liking me or whatever, or some people just competing harder against me. Stan competed harder against me because I was aggressive. You know what I mean? So that's just how it was. But I never was a bad teammate. I got cousins they weren't bad teammates either. They were really, really great ball players, but they were just aggressive. And in our family, we just like that. We just talk a lot. We fight. You know what I'm saying? We get at it, you know. But I never belittle nobody though. I never belittle nobody. Yeah. Like I don't come in and like he called dude a pussy or he called dude a bitch. And I never did none of that, man. You know, I never did none of that. And I think that's unnecessary to push your. We can all be leaders. I was a leader, so I know we can all be leaders. But you don't have to belittle nobody, man. Try to take somebody's manhood away from them. Any of that.
So let me say this. What year was that Horace was with the Bulls again? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. What year was that Horace was on the Bulls and supposedly he wasn't allowed to eat?
That was between 87 and 93.
Okay, 93. I'm going to tell you real talk. He would have done that. This I'd have showed up. I'd have showed up old school on his ass. I'd show up. What up? Get some. Ain't nobody taking my cornbread.
That was rough, man.
You need to stop.
Ain't nobody taking my cornbread. What now?
No, but hey, I got one more thing about that though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm 5'8". I've had a lot of fights with bigger people. Yeah. If Mike told me I couldn't, because I don't do disrespect. I really don't. I don't do disrespect. Right. If Mike told me I couldn't eat, bro, he ain't eating either. I'm putting his food on his. I'm pushing his food off the table, bro. I mean, because it just makes no sense, man. You know. Now, Horace told
Shannon Sharp
that it actually happened, and then Skip came behind him and said Horace ate after he got off the plane. I mean
that's crazy.
I don't understand that type of situation, man.
No, that ain't happening.
I wouldn't be able to deal with that, man. You know.
So when I was playing JUCO, and I've shared the story a couple of times. You know, we had guys from the suburbs and we had guys from the city, and there was always this constant clash. And I had a couple teammates that were just they were up to no good. You know, first off, you know, being on the court with them, they played buddy ball. You know, so there was like maybe 5 or 6 that were from the public league. So they played buddy ball because there was a certain level of trust, but also a certain level of respect because either they played against them or they knew because they played in the public league that they could count on them. So in my role, because I was a little bit older when I transferred to a junior college, I was kind of the intermediary. I was the buffer. You know, but with that, I saw firsthand how, you know, bad teammates could tear a team apart. And I became the de facto leader. And here's the thing: I was a walk-on when I went to JUCO. I was a walk-on and ended up starting and became one of the leaders because A, I was older, B, I was more mature, and C, guys on both sides respected me. It's not easy to be a leader, and not everybody knows how to lead. I think somebody mentioned earlier that, hey, you know what, people learn in different ways. Some people, I think Jimmy Johnson said it best. I treat everybody fair, but I don't treat them the same.
Right.
So the way I motivate Frank down in the post is going to be different from the way I motivate Kim versus how I motivate big friend. You know, it's all knowing your personnel, and it's not one size fits all leadership. And I think that's the difficult part, and that's what people are missing when they say, you know, Michael Jordan's such a great leader. Well, I kind of go back and forth over that, because I think he was a great, I don't want to say motivator, but he set the standard. But in terms of leadership, I don't necessarily know if I want to buy into that, because there weren't a lot of guys following him. You know, you look at guys like Scottie Pippen and things like that, who they said was a good teammate. But Frank, I know you over there chomping at the bit. I can see your nails.
No, I'm good. I'm just listening. I'm just listening to y'all. That's just listening.
Oh, okay. You over there? I know. I can just see breaking in the house.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Hey, brothers, I'm gonna keep listening, but I am at work, so I gotta move on. But I'm gonna still be on though.
Sounds good.
All right, bro.
You need to. All right. So we hear a lot. So with this, a lot of conversation has been revolving around the GOAT now, greatest of all time. Before we even get into, and I don't even want to get into who do you think is the GOAT, what defines the GOAT? What is I'm gonna quote the famous philosopher Bishop Magic Wand from the west side of Chicago.
Yeah.
What is the flow mat and criteria, aka the format and criteria?
Right.
For determining what is the GOAT? What is that? What is the GOAT? What's your criteria? Frank, what's your criteria for the GOAT?
Championships.
Okay.
I think okay. I'm gonna simplify it.
Okay.
What you did off and on the court.
Off and on the court. So what does that mean?
So you take Kareem. He has won more than Michael Jordan. He's won more than he's won more than any player ever.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes Jordan the GOAT for me is how he changed the what he did off the court. And I'm not talking about selling shoes. I'm talking about Jordan made the NBA a household name worldwide.
Okay.
And so when you watch the episode with the Dream Team, you can you see what Jordan made it possible for like LeBron and the guys today to be able to eat outside the court, because Jordan was the first one doing the commercial.
Right, he laid the foundation.
And so take that along with the 6th championship, along with what he did on the court. That is why I call Mike the GOAT.
So when you say on the court, meaning like his play and statistics.
Yeah, I'm talking about just his winning, his style, what he did with the shorts. I mean, everyone was wearing those tight shorts, man, growing up. Jordan was the first one with the baggy shorts. It wasn't the Fab Five,
right,
but it was Jordan. And so he just on the court and like what you do off the court. That's just like with Tyson. I know that to me, Tyson, what he did in the ring, and then you take just everyone back in 89 and 90 fell in love with boxing because of Tyson. And so that's why it's a slim.
Stop.
I still go with Tyson though, but okay, that's all I got.
Yeah,
have the boxing discussion. I know we ain't gonna cover that. We gonna cover it one day.
Yes.
Tyson no damn GOAT, but okay.
You're right. You know what, big Frenchie, what you got for me? What is your GOAT? What's the criteria for your GOAT? What's the flow mat and criteria?
Okay, so when you 30 years, you know I've gone back and forth because at first we do this GOAT shit. This all started with the social media influx. Everybody had their favorite player, but it wasn't never criteria in the format. But I said it first, and Frank made me pick one, but I said there should be a GOAT for every position.
Thank you.
Everybody's job is different.
Agreed.
You can't know how tall you are, what you do on the court, you can only do what you do best. So if you a center, so let's say I take Kareem. If you Kareem, Well, of course you ain't gonna be out there dribbling the ball in front of everybody and fancy moves. Like, your job is to grab the ball, finish, rebound, those kind of things. So I think it gets caught up in flash. So I started looking at it, and Frank was like, okay, man, French, you got to pick one. So I said, if I had to pick one, I'm going to pick Mike. And he fits my description of what I would call a GOAT on the basketball court because of his dominance, his consistent dominance. The way he moved, being in front of him and seeing it for one thing, the way he moved, everything. I look at LeBron, I look at Mike, and I'm like, there's a difference. And I'm not going to use that killer instinct because I don't think we measure that. Everybody does it in a different way. If you there and you win this at this level, whether you win or lose, you got to kill it. And I think that we put too much value on the team effort because you only can roll out there with who you rolling out with. And all of that, I'm making my teammates better and all that nonsense. I don't think you make a teammate better. You can put him in a better position. But if he ain't working on his game, if he don't have that same desire, if he ain't got the skill set, he don't have it. So I don't look at the team thing. I look at the individual dominance. And from what I've seen, Mike's individual dominance and the fear he instills opponents just for them not being able to stop what he does just makes it go for me.
Okay. Big Ken.
You know, as far as the GOAT, man, first of all, I think people need to take a step back and realize when you're talking about the greatest of all times, it could be more than one player. You know, if you go back and you look at the history of a Kareem, won at every level, revolutionized the game, had rules changed because of him. Took a low-level team like Milwaukee and won a championship. Went to L.A., won multiple championships. If you look at the body of work that Kareem did alone, man, it's crazy. Yep. You know, when we talk about revolutionize, I mean, you know, they never changed the rules for Mike. You know, when Mike was in college, they didn't outlaw anything. They didn't widen the lane or anything. So when you look at someone like Kareem, man, and his body of work, not only on the court, but socially in the community, he took stands, man, where it was not popular for a superstar of his magnitude to take those type of stands during the civil rights movements. But he did. So, you know, you got to put him right up there, man. It's a choice either way. Kareem, MJ, you're not going to go wrong. But I think people need to realize there can be more than one GOAT in the game of basketball if you look at some of these players' body of work.
Paul, how about you?
Well, I kind of disagree with the concept of there being more than one. Because, you know, for instance, if you had to have surgery and they said, well, this guy's the best surgeon in the country, you're not going to even think that there's another one that's equal to him or her. You see what I'm saying? I think there's arguments to be made about Kareem for the reasons that have already been mentioned. Kareem did, in fact, win at every single level. I think the reason why he's omitted from the conversation is because people tend to have a difficult time relating to a guy who's 7'1", 7'1", 7'2". You know, you kind of discount the big guys because if you really want to talk about dominance, then you got to talk in terms of somebody like Shaquille O'Neal. Now, granted, he doesn't have the rings, but from a physical standpoint, he had no competition whatsoever. Not from a physical standpoint. We could talk about Hakeem, but Hakeem was a finesse ball player, you know, and he gave Shaq the business, you know, in the championship. But when it comes to the greatest, I look at Michael and I say it's a legitimate argument for a couple of reasons. You talk about the criteria, achievements.
Okay, achievement.
He's there as far as actual achievements. He's there statistically, but also analytically. Someone, I forgot who it was, that mentioned about the fact that he thought that there should be GOATs for individual positions. I think that's a logical argument because it's kind of hard to, for instance, omit Jabbar from this conversation simply because he's a center. You know, it's kind of, I mean, if you really think about it, it's very difficult to take him out of the equation just because of Mike's 2 3-peats. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard. I would actually endorse that type of a thing, but if I tend to gravitate more to the guy who's the average. And I'm thinking, 6'3", 4, and 5, and 6. Those are kind of like the average ball players or whatever, And then you look at Michael and you see the things that he accomplished, the statistics, where he ranks among shooting guards over the course of his career. And I understand the argument about LeBron. See, a lot of times people would take, my not endorsing LeBron as the GOAT as an indictment against LeBron. But think about it realistically. How can you have an indictment against his career? You know what I mean? It's illogical. It's illogical to really find a negative. And now you can analyze it any way you want. But the fact is that he's a phenomenal player. He is a great player. As far as longevity goes, I don't think you're going to ever see, I'll be amazed if we ever find another person who's going to be able to play as long as he has and maintain the level of performance that he's maintained over the course of his career. But when you're talking about individual analysis in terms of who's better, a lot of those, the criteria falls under longevity, number of rebounds you get, number of assists that you make, those type of things. Those are things that you accumulate over time. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I kind of lean towards Mike. But I think the guy, I don't know who it is that mentioned it. I think the argument should be that you should literally separate it by position. And that way you won't have the confusion that you have, or that, the animus that people have when you say, I think Mike's better. Who's the best shooting guard? Who's the best point guard? We do it point guards all the time, right? When they say who's the best point guard, nobody hesitates. They say who? Magic Johnson.
Right.
9 times out of 10, people say Magic Johnson is the best point guard. We don't even hesitate. If we say center, usually, the consensus, most people will go towards Jabbar. But it's when you start talking about the greatest overall, that's when you get into it's too convoluted, it's too muddy, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
And that was the point I wanted to get. I was hoping somebody would get to. Thanks for sharing that. And that is, and even in this conversation, there hasn't been a set definitive criteria set forward. For me, I kind of look at a little bit of everything that everyone has said in terms of determining who is what makes up a GOAT. I'm not even going to say who I think is the GOAT, but what makes up the GOAT. I look at what are your individual accomplishments first. That's the thing first and foremost.
Absolutely.
The thing I look at is where did you rank amongst your peers during that time frame?
Yes.
For example, I have a difficult time looking at a guy who may have some numbers, but wasn't as revered individually, such as all NBA, all-star selections, individual accolades, such as all defense, MVP, things like that, as somebody who does have those individual accolades based off of their individual accomplishments and how they placed and ranked among their contemporaries at that time.
Right.
So we go back and forth. One of those guys who I think just doesn't belong on that all-time list, that top 10 shooting guard list, is Reggie Miller. And that, to me, that's an example of a person like that, who's got numbers, who's got stats. When you look at his individual accolades, they're a little sketchy. Team accomplishments, I think championship. Oh, God. Dang. Paul gonna see me see me in the coaching room after school, No, but I think team accomplishments, there's something to be said about that, but it's how you look at team accomplishments. Because you can have a guy who has good team accomplishments that might have 3 or 4 rings, but was a Robin or even a Nightwing, to quote Big Frenchie, not even the Batman. He might be Robin or the Nightwing, and somebody who might have 1 or 2 rings that was the Batman, and may have had more of an individual and overall contribution to those rings. So when you're splitting hairs and you start talking about greatness, rings come into it, but also rings are circumstance. Rings sometimes require talent, coaching, skill, but then also 2 other things that people really don't want to acknowledge: luck and timing. And that's a lot that happens. That's a lot.
Definitely luck. Definitely
Hello,
luck.
Toronto.
Go ahead.
Hello, Toronto, because that you just encompassed all that in their championship run.
That's the only reason they got a ring, bro.
I have said that 2 teams of destiny. I'm not going to waver. The Dallas team that beat the Miami Heat and that Toronto team that won last year. Those were 2 teams of destiny, because if you look at it, everything fell into place. All the pieces clicked, the coaching, the lineups, the ball bounces, things like that. I'm not gonna wear raw for that. You know what? I'll put the wig back on. I'll put me. You know, y'all outside. Hey, I'm making an OG call. I'm going OG Bobby Johnson.
Yeah.
Bobby Johnson, come see me outside. You know, y'all got a problem?
Standing there.
Hey,
You know,
it's unpopular, but I say the same thing about Cleveland.
okay.
I say the same thing about Cleveland about when from coming back from 3-1. There's a reason why no team has ever come back from 3-1 in the finals.
Sure.
But like you said, you've got to have luck on your side.
Absolutely.
And just simply being healthy is a huge advantage. I mean, think about it. Mike, you mentioned this about team accomplishments. 6 championships for the Bulls. Was anybody injured during any of those runs?
Great. No. Pippen, they were very well. Their bodies were very well maintained. Chip Schaefer,
I'm talking about in the finals. He was hurt, but in the finals, they've had the fortune of being healthy.
Yeah.
You know, going into 6 finals, they had because the last time I can think of somebody who actually had an injured player, a significant injured player, a starter, and having them win was when Magic Johnson played against the Celtics, and he played all. But again, you lost a player, but you had Magic Johnson as the backup for all of those positions. So, but you lose a starter in the finals, you don't win.
No, you done.
You don't win.
No.
That's why and look, and it's not an indictment against Cleveland, because like I said, I think you can't argue about LeBron's
you
great.
said it about 3 times. I started thinking it's an indictment against Cleveland, but you know.
Well, no, I don't lie. I like to bully Cavs fans about that though. I do.
Okay.
I like to bully him about it, but because I like to point out the fact that at full speed, in fairness, I discount the first championship because Kyrie was injured, Love was injured, right?
Yeah.
LeBron had a great series. But he was shorthanded, right?
Great
so
series.
I don't even count that one. I don't even count it. When Cleveland mentions that, I got to give it to them because I think that's fair. That they came in, they didn't come in unhealthy. They came in broken.
Right.
Okay. But we did get a repeat the following year to see what those teams would look like playing at full strength. And at full strength, 100% Cleveland, 100% Golden State, the best the Cavaliers could muster is a 3-1 deficit. It wasn't until Golden State lost Draymond for game 5, but also Bogut for the series in game 5. Then Golden State becomes a little bit more mortal. And of course, you got the greatness of LeBron because he had a huge series, and it was enough to win 7 games. There it is.
So Paul, you don't give no love to the King for putting those players on his back and getting the ring?
Series. No, he had a great series, but he had a great series. I mean, put it this way: there's no way they get to 7 games without him being exceptional. Not good, not great, but exceptional.
Fair enough.
I mean, because he went 41, 27, triple-double, and one of the greatest blocks ever. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
I get it, but I have no argument against that whatsoever. But there's a reason why basketball is different from the Super Bowl. You don't show up on Super Bowl Sunday, that's it. You get 1 game. But basketball, you get 7.
But
and in a 7-game series, the best team will always win, except if something extraordinary happens. I point to Lakers versus Portland when Rasheed Wallace gets put out of a game for looking at a ref. That series went 7 games.
Joey Crawford.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Think about it.
Crawford is
Portland should have won, could have won that series. But by taking Rasheed out of that game for looking at him, they took their best overall player out the game, and that series went 7.
Right. So having said that, Paul, I got to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I've been kind of waiting for this conversation. So now we talk about rings and we talk about the load, and I'm so glad that you gave that man his props for this, because that's why these conversations are a lot better than being on the locker room, because you can't.
I agree.
On social media.
What you want to say. So much respect to you. So the other thing is this. Having looked at LeBron's career and the championship series that he was in, which one do you think that he was the favorite in? And which one do you think Jordan wasn't the favorite in? His team.
No, good question. Good question.
Great question.
Great question.
Jordan was the only time Jordan was not the favorite was the first one. Because the first one when he went up against the Los Angeles Lakers, because you were going up against Magic Johnson and James Worthy and all of these guys. And the fact is that Jordan, up until that moment, he had just gotten past Detroit, but his reputation as a ball player was somebody who could score a bazillion points but never win. In other words, I think there were just as many people who thought he was going to lose in that finals as there were people who thought he was going to win. But
Okay.
and it didn't help them. It didn't help them the first because they lost the first game. When they lost the first game, that was all everybody needed. See, we told you.
Hey, Paul, that Laker team was old and broken by then, man.
And that
So
team got
I would say that
they were older than us.
Well, look, speak for yourself. But anyway,
I think the place is about to go tits up. Hold on. As they say in London, England, the place is about to go tits up. Hold on.
I mean, but you know what? That narrative is kind of interesting because people like to say that a lot of times about, when Michael Jordan actually got to the point where he was talking championships, that everybody, his competition had gotten old. But, Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars and those guys were like 30 and 31. They were not old. They just got their ass whipped. And then you can look it up.
All right, hold on. Let me hear from Derek. Go ahead and jump in.
The reason I don't agree is because, okay, you got to remember, Isaiah had started breaking down. Isaiah retired at 32 years old. 32. You see what I'm saying? So he had already started breaking down because of all the wars that he had against Boston and LA and against the Bulls. So the Pistons had gotten old. Even though their age wasn't old, they had gotten old because in basketball years, they were much older than what they were. So
that's a good point.
They had no way, after the Bulls made it up that hill, Isaiah them was gone. You ask any of the teammates, the youngest person mentally and physically on that team was Dennis Rodman, and he had started losing it because Chuck Daly had, went away. So they really didn't have no comeback for the Bulls after that. You know what I'm saying? Joe Dumars played a few more years, and I'm a Pistons fan, so I know this, but Joe played a few more years, and then basically the Pistons was shot until Grant Hill got there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they never could climb the hill. The Pistons was over with when Mike started, because he had his wars against, how many wars the Pistons went through?
Eastern Conference, dude. Eastern Conference.
Was tough.
Yeah.
And it was and when they were done, they were done. It was Bulls from that point on. So,
But yeah, that's the thing about Mike. Mike didn't just win the championship, he destroyed franchises.
Well,
that's a good point. But then my whole thing with that is that, so getting back to the whole thing, I think when we talk about favorites, the only team I didn't see LA beating them because they didn't have something that, if they would have had Kareem, different story. Different story. Because they would have had an answer for Kareem. But I think that when the Bulls were the underdog, to me, I think Phoenix.
That's a good one.
Right. That's a good one. What happened in that series was, and me and Stan and Derek talk about this all the time, Richard Dumas comes out in the first 20 minutes and kills Scottie Pippen. Let's just be real. Right. He was breaking Scottie Pippen off.
No one will admit that. No one will admit it.
No one will admit it. He was only getting like 19 minutes a game, averaging 17 or something like that on 57% shooting.
It was 21 minutes a game.
Put him out the game, and I don't know what that was about. Paul Westphal got badly outcoached, and Mike had to go on a tirade. And that's when you see Mike really being Mike, because I think he averaged 40 for that series. And he had got 40 for the series, and then Kevin Johnson, he didn't play good at all.
It was a tough series for him.
Yeah, that was a tough series for them. And so when I look at the Bulls, I look at teams like the Sonics, they didn't have a chance. I look at the Blazers. Your second score, like for the Blazers, they second leading score 15 points a game. You ain't beating the Bulls unless you got 3 dudes that can get out there and get you 20. And you know they can go get you 20. Even if they didn't necessarily average 20, so they're going to up in the playoffs 20. Ron has had he has played some of the greatest all-time teams in these finals. You got the Spurs, known winners, 4 Hall of Famers, dudes like Patty Mills coming off the bench that was killing, that could have been the MVP when Kawhi won it. Then you got a team like the Warriors, who were already legit. Then they bring Kevin Durant in, and now you got 3 of the 5 best shooters ever to play. And then let me just say this, and I'm not gonna try to. I'm just excited because this is the first time I'm on here, and I got a lot to say. But let's real quick because I'm all over the place. But Miami, I'm gonna say this: this whole thing about 3 superstars, they had 2 superstars. 2. I'm saying, Chris Bosh is not that dude. I'm not gonna ever say he that dude. And it's not about it was about his toughness and his lack of rebounding. If my starting center and my power forward are averaging 8 rebounds between them, we ain't winning.
Right.
It's a shock to me that they even won. So I think he had more of a load to carry with the teammates, because when you don't build a team organically, like if the team ain't built to whereas the Bulls were built organically, LeBron put that team together himself, for lack of a better term, but you don't get the supporting cast you need. So they were underdogs. So for me to get even 3, I'm like, damn, that was an accomplishment. Because personally, I think the only one that he should have won was the Oklahoma one. I can even say Dallas, because Dallas swept the champion Lakers to get there.
Right.
So
yeah, that wasn't luck. I agree with you on that one. That one was not luck.
Yeah. Dallas was a better team than what people gave him credit for. Now LeBron did not have a good series, and I'm not gonna say he did. That was the worst series he ever played. But I still think that Dallas was not no pushover. And everybody else that they won against, I think they surprised people by winning. And he had to play exceptional for them to win.
Agreed.
So
he's only been the favorite in 3 finals, period. And he lost one of them that he was the favorite in, which was Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he's only been the favorite in 3 finals, period, man. I mean, when you really think about it, like, he was not supposed to beat Golden State at all, but he wound up winning that one. He wasn't supposed to beat the Spurs one year. Even though he was with Miami, they still wasn't the favorite in that series against the Spurs. And then the series against Dallas, he was favored.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma. He was favored against those. And that was it. He haven't been favored in no other series.
That's true.
So he was not supposed to win those championships. And Mike was supposed to win those championships.
Right.
So,
well, whoever was going to come out the East back in that day with Jordan was going to be the favorite.
Like to go. Exactly.
Yeah. The East was a beast back in those days. But you know, with LeBron is a victim of his own greatness in a way. You know, he is. Because like when he was at Cleveland, the thing is that people don't think about the fact that when you're like the #1 team in the East and you go to the finals, what's the one thing, if you don't win it, what's the one thing you're not going to get, you know, basically at the end of the year? A draft pick. You know, look how many years he's been in the finals. Now ask yourself, where's the damn draft picks? He has never had the benefit of getting a top-level player out of college, you know, of that type of situation. He's never been in it. It was the same thing pretty much for the Bulls, but that's what winning does. You know,
to that point, that's why he had to leave Cleveland. Because look, when your best player sitting next to you is Mo Williams, and you still winning 60 games.
Well, look,
you're not gonna get that draft pick, and you're not gonna get better.
Well,
can't get no free agents.
Even if it's not basketball, right? Even if it's not basketball, how do you fault a 20-something-year-old multimillionaire kid for leaving Cleveland to go to Miami?
Well, you can't fault
Exactly. That's all I've been saying all along. That's what I've been saying all along.
He didn't even have to play basketball.
Now we cooking with gas right now. That's what I've been saying.
Let me segue real quick. Before we get into that, because I want to come back to that. Frank, I know you're over there rocking the number 31 Granville Waiters jersey. What you got for me?
Oh, hell no.
That's number 23.
Okay.
I thought it was Granville Waiters. I thought it was number 31.
Oh.
I'm sorry. No, anything on the Bulls? What are your thoughts on this conversation? There's a lot of Mike and LeBron. I don't want this to devolve into a Mike LeBron
Right.
because we can go all day and all night. But I do think that we hit on something, and that is Cleveland. So before we jump into that, Frank, any thoughts on the Bulls and what you heard and so forth before we jump into why LeBron or thoughts on LeBron leaving Cleveland?
No, I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what? Let's talk about it. Here's why I can't fault LeBron for leaving Cleveland. First of all, I can say Cleveland because just the whole concept of Cleveland as a city, that shit just tickles me. So I just showed my age by saying it tickles me. That's the old soul right there. But the reality of it is, who stays in Cleveland? You know, whether you're going away for school, to get a new job, you're trying to get up out of Cleveland. You know, my dad had an account there as a tech. He was in the IT industry when it first started booming in the 70s and 80s, and he had an account in Cleveland. It was like, my mom didn't have to worry about no tomfoolery or cheating because there wasn't nothing going on in Cleveland.
Hey,
Right.
man, I got people in Cleveland. You ain't got to do us like that, man.
You know, but the reality of it is, let me break it down to you like this. And I've had this conversation. Leaving Cleveland to go to Miami is and be with your friends and make money. I equate that to if Paul works at AT&T Uverse. I work for Comcast, but Dish is hiring, and they say, you know what, we can bring you and Paul to work at Dish, pay you well, and guess what? We are going to relocate you to Miami. Who would not turn that down? You're going to be friends. You're going to make money. You're going to be at the top competitively. All these factors. So the human element, while it sounds nice to say, wow, you know what? Yeah, he should have stayed and X, Y, Z. The reality of it is the human element. Everything was in place for him to kick rocks and move on to Cleveland. What are guys' thoughts on that? Am I off on that?
No, you're real. That's real.
Nope.
Real. I mean,
No, you great. Right on time.
People tend to dog him for that, but you got to remember, before that, this dude came out of high school, man. This dude came out of high school and went to Cleveland, brother, a city where he already lived at.
Right.
So he had never left. So for him to leave, go play with his friends, or what, it's almost like going to college, man. So,
and I think that's how he treated it, even with the announcement, with the decision.
Yeah. It was almost like him going to college, man. And you couldn't knock him. I couldn't knock him because when the franchise didn't go get Amari Stoudemire for J.J. Hickson and that type of stuff, how you gonna fault him for leaving a franchise that ain't trying to get better?
We could go further. We could go further back than that. I mean, okay, let's just put it like this. I know Michael Jordan's and them team is a team of destiny, but Cleveland might have had something to say about that had they kept their team together when they had Ron Harper. And they chose him for Danny Ferry, who never stood up for him. And then you bring that in. So you put a guy that was giving Michael Jordan some problems and making him at least accountable on the other end,
right,
with Harper. And then you have Craig Elo there now. So, you know, that year that they Cleveland with the shot, they had beat the Bulls 6 times that year.
Yeah.
So my thing is, what you do is you retool and you try to come back the next year. And Cleveland didn't even get themselves a chance. So that's the history of that franchise. Then he gets there, he gets drafted. They can't put nothing around him because, like Paul alluded to, if you start winning, you're not gonna get the draft picks. Now you got to try to get somebody to come in as a free agent. Who in the hell? Who was
the last major free agent?
For example, as good as San Antonio is, ain't nobody gonna sign with them as a free agent because it's not a destination spot. So it comes to the point where me and Stan Derek talk about all the time. Sometimes winning mean more to the fans than it do to the players, or it does mean something to the players, but they gonna take care of their name, their fame, and their game first. And then they say, okay, you know what? I can try to win. Let me go here. Let me go there. But you are a victim to where you are drafted at. If that organization is not building around you to try to put the guys around you, and it's hard when you're in Cleveland ain't nobody signing with Cleveland. I'm
Nobody
sorry.
vacations to Cleveland.
No, not
Cleveland.
There's no one.
What about you, Big Kid? What are your thoughts, man? Are you going to Iowa is the Midwest Cleveland. So what are your thoughts on it? If Iowa was to have a team, the Iowa Huskers, no, that's already taken. Well, just give me your thoughts, bro.
I mean, man, you know, he stayed in his hometown. He came in right out of high school. You know, a lot of people forget that name a Hall of Fame coach that LeBron has ever played for. You know, he never had the benefit of playing for a Dean Smith or Michael Krzyzewski to learn the game, you know, from some of the best ever. So you got a kid that is figuring this out as he goes. As we know, when we if you're around 18, 19-year-olds, they have nothing figured out.
Right.
And this man was able to come in as an 18-year-old and win championships without playing for a Hall of Fame coach in college, anywhere. You know, what he did in Cleveland, man, you know, other than Kareem, who brought a title to Milwaukee, that's crazy, man. I don't think we'll ever see something like that again. So
Wait. I'm gonna say you're not, because all of the rumors when you talk about Giannis in Milwaukee, where are they predicting that he's going to eventually end up?
Golden State.
Golden State.
Yep.
And you know what? That's the best thing for him to do, because to be perfectly honest with you, ain't nobody gonna talk about Kevin Durant going to Golden State to get them titles 10, 15 years from now. Ain't nobody really talking about it now. He had to do what he had to do to go get a title. And if Milwaukee cannot get the team properly around Giannis to get him straight, I'm not gonna blame him at all for going to Golden State.
Right?
San Francisco. Look, if you've ever been to Milwaukee and if you've ever been to San Francisco, it ain't no. Especially now add some money to it.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, you know what, guys? We had a lot of conversation. The last thing I want to talk about, let's touch on this real quick. And I want to kind of move away from the on-court stuff to the off-the-court stuff. There's been talk, and I was just listening to NBA radio, and there were some reports that players had a phone call. Some of the lead players, LeBron James, Giannis, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, they had a conversation discuss what would it look like to reopen and restart the season. I think this is a good – well, I think this is in direct response partially to baseball trying to capitalize on no other sports being available to sports fans during this time period. Baseball has submitted a proposal for a reduced season where they were going to look to have 82 games and pare down their schedule, albeit with no fans. Part of the thinking with baseball is, and I want to ask this question to you guys, part of the thinking with baseball is that if they're the only game in town, that people will watch baseball, and baseball will then make a resurgence and overtake the NBA and now be second under the NFL, kind of taking over that slot, that mantle from the NBA as far as regaining that perception and feel of America's pastime. Do you think that if the NBA were to cancel the rest of their season and wait until September, October, or November to start, there's even talk about starting on Christmas Day for the upcoming NBA season, they're cancel the rest of 2019, 2020, and then start up again in the fall. Do you think that baseball over the long haul would be able to overtake the NBA, or do you think this is pie in the sky dreaming and the NBA's got the second spot as far as North American team sports? They had that second spot on lock. Frank, what are your thoughts on that?
Regardless when the NBA start back, man, the NBA will always be the second most popular sports man in this country.
Okay. And why do you think that is?
I mean, because of the names. I mean, LeBron James, man, is probably the most well-known basketball player now out, man, in the world. But man, when you look at the National Football League, mm-hmm. you got the Fantasy League, and it's just American sports. So the NFL will always be the #1 sport, man, in this country. But then basketball, regardless if it starts Christmas or starts tomorrow, baseball is just that. The only body that really love baseball is Derek Clemens. Okay. But you know, but I like my Cubs. You know, I love my Cubs. But regardless, though, baseball is just not that sports. I mean, regardless if the NBA start Christmas or start tomorrow, it's gonna always be second best.
Okay, good.
I got it.
Big Ken, what are your thoughts? Hold on, let me get to Ken real quick. I haven't heard from Ken in a minute.
Oh man, baseball, man, with the attention span of fans now, man, baseball is just too slow.
I was gonna say.
Name recognition. You can name more NFL, NBA players who are superstars who people want to see than MLB players, man. It doesn't matter, man. You know, if the MLB season starts tomorrow, people are still going to be craving for NBA and NFL games, man. That's just the way it is in this country.
Great point. Derek, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's like Ken said, we live in a microwave time. We live in a microwave time. So everything has to be quick. And the pace of the game of basketball is going to win out over baseball nowadays. You know, and plus the marketing of basketball is way different from the market. I mean, it's the marketing of basketball is actually the best marketing in sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they're not going to lose to baseball because of this half a season. It's not going to happen. Baseball has to do a lot more. And see, when we was coming up, we were playing the game of baseball. You see what I'm saying? We no longer playing the game of baseball.
Right.
Our brethren that means our Hispanic brothers from the Dominican Republic, from Mexico, from our Hispanic brothers are playing, but us as Americans are not playing the game. The black athlete is not playing the game. So it's just not the same excitement. They ain't even stealing bases no more. So it's a different game, man. So the excitement of basketball, man, is always gonna keep the attention of the era that we live in right now. So yeah, they're not gonna take over.
Paul, what are your thoughts?
Baseball. The reason why baseball is #1 and will stay #1. I think everybody recognizes that the speed of the game is, is between baseball and basketball is an issue, but you got to remember that baseball was here. And if you look at the total demographics of the country, in terms of population, there are far more Caucasians than there are African Americans, et cetera. I think we only make up 13%, 14% of the population. Not only you add to the fact that basketball is a sport where the guys are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 7 feet, 7'2", 7'3", and it's a little bit difficult for, let's just say, that the average kid to imagine being that particular athlete, but that kid can imagine himself being on third base, being a shortstop, being a first baseman, being an outfielder. There are professional baseball players who are under 6 feet. There aren't that many NBA ball players who are under 6 feet. There's some, but not many. And right now, the joke is that baseball in itself is a very expensive sport. My son plays baseball. No, my son plays baseball. One bat, $500. Baseball has become I would say, a rich man sport because you can't expect the average American to go out. And like my son, I could have him come down right now and he'll pull out a bunch of bats, $399, $400, $500. Okay. Yeah, it's and
so you
the
telling
only
us
way.
you rich?
No.
I know, right? What's the address? The address didn't pop up.
No. Look, don't come for me.
Trying to see what that 91 Addy looking like.
No, but I guess look, the point I'm trying to make though is that you could never get those kind of prices if you didn't have a huge base willing to spend the money. That's why baseball is still popular. That's why basketball will never surpass it. That's why you get you know, you get these baseball players, $30 million, $200 million contracts. You know, there's a ton of money. And if you got to figure that if these Major League Baseball teams are paying baseball players $30 million, $200 million, can you imagine what the owners are making?
Of course.
They have a better players union, though. Their
They
players
do.
union is one of the best.
I agree with that, too.
And they have way more games.
Yeah.
See,
That's true.
That's true.
They collect. Me and Richard was just talking about this because I was actually a better baseball player than I was a basketball player. But the thing is with baseball is that the opportunity to make so much money with all those games is absolutely ridiculous for them. So they are popular, but they're not national no more. They're regional. All baseball games are mostly regional now. You know, most teams got their own network, you know, where they watching their games or whatever. It is more of a rich man's game nowadays.
Right.
We don't play it in the sandlots no
It's
more.
like golf.
It is, no doubt about it. I got a pair of clubs that I need to sell right now. But I mean, it is like that. It is like that. It's like golf, man. You know, so it's I kind of differ with you on the popularity of it, but as far as a regional sport in each town, it is very popular. You know, it's popular here. And with the Cubs, the Sox still got their fans too.
Yeah.
But the Cubs are super popular, but recognizable around the world and taken over from the people different nowadays. Like me, I can watch a baseball game. I can't get my woman to watch a baseball game for nothing in the world, bro.
You know,
so
it's interesting because I've been in sports and recreation for the last 10 plus years. And I've had conversations with other sports professionals, you know, whether it's with local park districts, recreation, because really that's where your grassroots baseball starts. You know, if you have kids, you want to introduce them to them efficient, low-cost introduction. And usually that price point comes at your local community center or your local park district or something like that.
Yep.
And we're talking about the evolution of sports and to Derek's point, interest and what holds attention span. You would see that you would have enough teams, enough interest to have in-house leagues on every level. So you can have 4 to 6 T-ball teams, 4 to 6 Mustangs, 4 to 6 Pony, 4 to 6 Little League. Now it's, to Paul's point, I think I'll split the difference. Because of the lack of popularity, now it's becoming more of a specialized and club sport. You're seeing people that have the interest, they may still introduce them, but instead of, like, for example, here in the South Suburbs, when I was working for one of the local municipalities, we would have 2 or 3 teams at our park district facility, and we would partner with 3 or 4 teams from another park district facility to make this league. Whereas before, there were enough players that you could have one in this village, one in that village, and then your champions would go out and play against those other park district or community-based facilities or community-based programs, and now they're not there. So now it's becoming more of a specialized sport because you don't have enough interest to have it in-house. So now you got to join a travel team or some kind of specialized team. And then with that, it costs money because now, where things were subsidized by the park district or grants or things like that, parents are coming to pay for it out of pocket. Paul, am I out of line to say that on any given weekend, if you want your son to play in a tournament, it can cost anywhere from $500 to $1,500 easily out of pocket as a parent?
Every week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's becoming more.
You got that scratch, bro.
I'm trying to work that address out of. I'm looking at the background. I see over here.
Paul talking about $500 to $1,500 every week. I don't know, Paul. Where you at, man? I need to know that, bro.
But
you don't want
the situation that
I know we've been at it on Facebook, man, but let me hold something, bro.
You remember, don't let the suit fool you.
Right.
I feel you.
You know what though? I think baseball would do themselves a favor too, as far as their whole thing, if they let the players celebrate a little more.
I agree.
Yeah.
Market a little bit. When they do the backflip, quit saying, okay, he did a backflip. Traditionally, I got to throw at him now and all of that. Yeah, we in a society now where people like that little excitement and the taunting, and it makes you want to watch.
Right.
You know, back in the day when I used to watch baseball, I guess my grandfather watched it, so I watched it. You come home, there's a bunch of kids on the block. You go get a baseball game, a strikeout game at the very least. You was interested, but I think they
loved it. I love it now.
Yeah, and I think they did a better job pushing the stars then with less social media, no social media, because you enjoyed to go buy cards. You collected the baseball cards. They had you look all of that. But now when it's like they got the tools to promote it, and they don't really promote it right. It's hard unless somebody's really into baseball to name the top 5 field, everyday players and the top 5 pitchers left or right-handed. Now you could, most casual basketball fans could give you that for basketball and or football, but you can't do it unless you're in.
I agree.
What's interesting is on the amateur level, one of the largest growing sports is soccer.
Yes.
Lots of kids are playing soccer. That's one of the things that even my daughter, my youngest daughter, I have 2 of them. My youngest daughter, she was really big into soccer. Basketball, but, that was her thing. All kids play soccer because, again, it's low maintenance, it's low impact. It's something that it allows them to expend their energy, be out there. And it's something that's fun to them because everybody can kick the ball or run after the ball. Let me just share this story. I remember we were in T-ball. Not I was in T-ball. I was over one of the local park districts here in the south suburbs, and these T-ball coaches were fire and brimstone. I mean, you would think that these guys were playing for the World Series and ring ball. We're talking about T-ball. If you've ever been around T-ball, if you've ever coached T-ball, if you can get those kids to pay attention for 40 minutes, you are coach of the year. So I remember one time, one of the kids, true story, one of the kids, he's in the outfield. And if you're in the outfield in T-ball, you get no action, period.
Nothing.
Little kid is sitting there. He sits down with his legs crossed. He puts his glove on his head, and he's like picking dandelions. And the ball had been hit to him like 2 or 3 innings. So that was his thing. He would go, and he was in right field. So you already know. He in right field. All of a sudden, the ball is hit to him. And he's like, he had no idea what was going on. People are like, his name. He's got his glove, and he's turning. He's got his glove on his head like this. Everybody's dying laughing, and he's like, get the ball. Now he's like trying to get the ball. He's running after the ball with his glove on his head, and it was just a hot mess.
Hey, Stan, if I was his teammate and he did that, he wouldn't have got anything to eat after the game, bro.
You would. You would.
See,
you would.
No.
See, I can tell. I can tell you do that.
No snacks for him. What you say, Ken? A team mom can't give him snacks after that.
No, that ain't happening.
No pancakes for him, man. No.
But you ain't lying though. I got pictures of my son sitting on third base.
I tell you, it's something about that, but it's also something to be said about the old-fashioned norms. And think no further back than several years ago. Chris Bryant, I believe it was Chris Bryant, was playing for Team USA, and I think they were going against Cuba or Argentina, or Dominican, one of those teams. And that Dominican team, they were just rocking it. Well, like during I think it was like the World Cup or the U.S. Cup or something, whatever they call it, the World Championships. They were rocking, and they were having a good time. They were jumping around. They were having all kinds of fun. I mean, you could just tell that it was almost like watching the Jamaican bobsled team. They knew they weren't supposed to be there, but they made it. They had a great time. Like they said, we ain't gonna try and drug test them, So, but that's how this team was. And one of the things that Chris Bryant said was, I'll never forget, because he was playing with the Cubs right before they won the World Series. So this is some years back. He made the comment that they wanted to beat this team, and I think they ended up beating them because they didn't show the respect for the game and the way it should be played. Now, think about that. You have a team that's out there that's enthused, that people are riding behind, and hey, you know what? I can be like that person, because guess what? I can hit the ball, but not only can I hit the ball, I can have fun doing it, but now you're going to be like this person. This person hits the ball, takes his trot around the 3 bases in home plate. Which would you rather do? Or I can go and chase the ball up and down the court. It doesn't cost my parents any extra money. I can work on it in my driveway, at a basket, things like that.
Right.
Participate. So that's why I think baseball, I don't think it will ever gain the popularity until they change their product. You can have all the great players, but if the product is still the same, the product is the product. Not to be
well, at least in our community, I would say yeah, because that's where the growth should be happening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, I have a bad habit of when I see you know, kids, you know, we're talking about like 7-year-old. I'll ask them what they're, you know, they're with their dads. I'll ask them if they play baseball, you know, and I'll even give them advice in terms of, you know, the park programs and where to start. And I'll do that in a minute, because if you look at the fact that every time a kid is, you know, you look at all these 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guys, they throw a basketball in their hand, or they play catch because, man, he'll be a hell of a receiver, or he'll be a tight end, or this type of thing. And look how fast he is. When you're 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", you're damn near automatically on first base.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you're on first. If you can pit, you're either first base or the mound, especially if you have the velocity to, you know, if you have the velocity to throw. But the thing is that a lot of times what happens is it's far easier for, you know, for instance, the women in our group to show up at a basketball practice, because it's difficult. They tend to wean away from the game because they're showing up at the park level with their kids. But because their kids don't have the interest, because it's not as exciting like you just mentioned, they tend to wean them away from the game to more exciting type of sports when they're young.
Well, the parents are different too, like you said, Paul. The parents are different. Like my mom, well, first of all, you know what your mother told you when you was growing up. Go outside.
Right.
Get out of this house, go outside. You know what I mean? Don't stay in this house, and make sure you close my door.
That's right.
Close the door. Don't you leave my door open. Don't let my air out. You know what I mean? So
don't let my air out.
We grew up that way, and we grew up playing out. So I took on all three sports. A lot of us did. You know what I mean? Because we were always outside playing.
Right.
Nowadays, kids are sheltered in the house. They don't grow for a lot of love. I mean, and it's because of the parents, though, but it's because of the times we live in, too. Like, it's weirdos out there that's different from the way it was when we were young. You see what I'm saying? So people tend to protect more, you know, so they had their kids in the house. So they don't grow to love the sports like we used to. And baseball just a part of that. Like, I talk to 13, 14, 15-year-old kids all the time about playing baseball and try to let them know you can go to the minor leagues, man, and make $1 million. I got 2 friends who did it. You see what I'm saying? That's where the money at. I know you think that you're gonna go and play basketball, play football, but you know it's a rarity. It's only so many jobs. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? But in baseball, they got a whole farm system that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players out there playing. Yeah. So I try to tell them that go up, man, try to just see if you like the game. Right. And you know what they do? More than likely they're gonna go hit that basketball court. You know, more than likely they're gonna pick that basketball up. And I'm not trying to push them away from the game, but if you 5'8" like me, you know what I'm saying? Your future more than likely you can be a professional baseball player. To Paul's what Paul said, you can be a professional baseball player if you 5'8". It's very rare you're gonna be a 5'8" professional basketball player, maybe overseas somewhere, but in the NBA, more likely you ain't gonna make that. So I try to guide them that way, man, but they ain't listening. They ain't listening.
Guys, we can go on and on. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. We can go on and on with this. I know we've had some really good conversation. I appreciate everybody jumping on the call. You know, these are the fourth one that I've had, and I've got people that are actually, you know, when I send the invitations out, you know, I've got a waiting list, you know, to the point that I'm actually doing another call this week. So just because I want to be able to accommodate people, because I know sports is the one thing that can bring people together. Sports is one thing people are passionate about. Sports is also something that can make, in a time of uncertainty, provide us with a level of comfort, because this is something that we're familiar with. So I appreciate everybody jumping on. I'm actually going to end our taping segment of this. So I appreciate everybody jumping on the call. If you're interested in more conversation, I can go ahead and leave it open. In the interim, for the respect and appreciation of everyone's time, I'm going to end our taping portion of this call. I thank everybody for jumping on. The greatness of the guys across the country. We got Alabama, New Orleans, Chicago, Iowa. You know, it's just phenomenal. So I thank everybody for jumping on.
That is.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right.
Thanks. It's
Thanks,
real.
Oh, man.
Thanks, man.
You all right,
Nice-
Paul?
Nice talking to
Oh,
you
you
guys,
all
man.
right,
Good
brother?
job, man.